From County College of Morris, this is CCM All Access.
Hello, and welcome to CCM All Access, the program that brings you news and information from the County College of Morris. Students on campus, members of the community, people doing good things. I'm Mitchell Etta, and joining me today is Professor Brian Schorr, who teaches in the Languages and ESL department here at CCM. Welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on the show.
Happy to be here.
So how come you chose to teach at CCM?
I like to think that CCM chose me. I was working, going back 15 years, at most of the community colleges in New Jersey. And CCM at the time had the most languages, the most vibrant department. It was adjuncting. And when a position became available, I was honored and delighted to apply. And I was blessed to be accepted. And I've made my home here at CCM for the last 13 or so years.
13 or so years.
It's a mid-year hire, so it gets a little bit confusing where that clock starts. But yeah, I've been here for quite some time.
So which schools did you attend, and how difficult was gaining the education you needed to graduate?
My CV, that's a bit of a bouncy story, if you want to get my educational history. I originally went to art school. So my bachelor's is actually in the fine arts. I have a BFA from the Savannah College of Art and Design. And I was originally an art teacher. And I was teaching art in New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania for a bit. And then was looking for a bit of an adventure and dealing with economics and politics, left the country, and I went to La Trobe University in Bendigo, Australia, and got a graduate degree as an art educator for Victoria, Australia. Taught in the Outback for a little bit,
Wow.
which was its own adventure, dodging wallabies on the way to work in the mornings. And when my visa ran out and I was looking at new opportunities, I was offered a position in South Korea. So I moved to South Korea and began transitioning from teaching art to teaching English. They're both about communication, but one is more internal communication and one is more external communication, is how I frame it. When I got back from living in Seoul for a couple years, I went to go get my teaching certification to teach English to speakers of other languages, found that I needed more schooling, so I went to the College of New Jersey, got a master's there. I don't know if I would say it was difficult, like the actual coursework. Teaching is one of those things, it's like driving a car. I can explain it to you, and then hand you the keys, it's not going to be the same. You come with practice, and I began practicing and learning my craft of teaching English to speakers of other languages in New Jersey. Began what we call like the adjunct circuit, working at all the different colleges, developing different programs, from church basements to high schools, getting as much different and valued experience as I could until CCM offered me a tenure track position. And even now, I'm actually back in school at FDU, getting a master's in special education to continue building my craft and finding new ways to help students, because that's a growth field, and the intersectionality between exceptional learners and English language learners is an underserved community that I feel my research could help shed light and assist these students.
So you said building your craft. Are you going to continue building your craft through art or ESL, like what you're doing currently?
I think it more of a student-centered craft. So whatever I'm actually like teaching in the classroom, now it's linguistics, but I think of it as helping people express themselves.
Okay.
Whether it's a paintbrush or a paragraph, you're telling your story. And you have to think about who you are and the language you use to speak, pictorial space or syntax. I'm helping people communicate with English to speakers of other languages. I'm helping people build lives. Anybody who might think that the American dream is dead can come to my classroom and see it alive. And here at CCM, we're giving students the skills they need to become nurses, to become police officers, to open up their own businesses, or follow whatever dreams they might have.
So how drastic would you say the language barriers can be in some of your classes that you teach?
Here at CCM, our credit-based ESL program We don't do beginners. We have a different program for that.
Okay.
So my students will come, or our students will be here with base level. Are there language barriers? Of course. I mean, honestly, there's language barriers even in a classroom full of native speakers. I don't find it a barrier. I find it an adventure because we're learning new words. We're learning how there are commonalities between words and between languages and between cultures, and there's disconnects, and every moment is an opportunity. In any classroom, I'm going to have 10 or 12 languages. So before you ask, because the first question I always get as an ESL teacher, no, I do not speak Spanish, and it would be a disservice to translate. There's no translations in my class. We learn together.
So students have no source of translating in the classes?
They are allowed bilingual dictionaries outside of assessments, but we discourage it because when you translate, it's called a L1 to L2, first language, second language transition. You're not building cognitive functionality. You're not developing linguistic understanding. And, well, have you taken a second language or third?
I have, actually. I took a second language in high school, and the last year I took it was my sophomore year. I would have liked to have continued doing it. The only thing was I didn't think I had the credentials to take another Spanish class, so I stopped taking it, and I really could see how stopping using a language, really you just lose like almost all of your vocabulary.
Well, on behalf of the languages department, welcome back, come. We actually have our own in-house Spanish assessment. So for anybody, you can go to the testing center and take our CCM Spanish placement test to see where you would line up. You know, if you took 2 years of Spanish, you're probably not going to go to level 1. But the reason I ask, of course, because languages are important and that's how we communicate. But anybody who's ever studied another language knows that direct translations don't always work. And even if the word has a direct translation, words without sentences have no meaning. So you need the context. So even if you can just translate it, it's not going to work. And we need that. Because we have computers, everybody has a phone, we can get Google Translate, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work because it takes out the human element. And that's one of the things I strive to bring back, is the human element of language, of linguistic communication.
Now, would you say English, and this is what I've heard, would you say that English is actually a very difficult language to learn, let's say compared to Spanish?
I would never say that. When we look at the research, to be fluent in English, you need about 10,000 words, which is higher than other languages. For example, Mandarin or simplified Mandarin, they say you can get by with 2,000 to 3,000 words.
Oh, wow.
So there is a higher vocabulary. However, of course, the first question is, what's your first language? Spanish to English tends to be a bit easier than Arabic to English. You know, it depends on where you're. No one starts at the same place.
Yeah.
Is English difficult? I would say no, because I make it fun and I make it exciting and interesting. It's not always easy, but nothing worth learning ever is. The joy of English is the ubiquitousness, lingua franca. It is the most used language in the world. It's the language of business. It's the language of entertainment. You want to learn English, TV, movies, literature, everybody's interested. And anywhere you go in the world, there's going to be someone who wants to learn it, wants to share it. You know, I remember being in the back country of Europe and having people say, oh, you're American, and just wanted to practice English. So it's something that people want to learn. Anytime you're learning a new language, the beginning, when it's considered in the exotic period, it's new and it's exciting. And then once you get into the heart of the grammar, it's work, like learning anything else.
Conjugations and
all that good stuff.
Yeah, all that good stuff.
You know, but again, it really depends on your first language, your study skills, and your dedication.
So what do you mean when you once said, when people move, they bring their language with them, and it changes? Languages are always breathing and growing. What does that mean?
So languages are not stagnant until they're dead. Actually, no, I would even argue that. Latin. No one is really speaking Latin outside of the Pope, yet the Vatican issues a new language dictionary and updates Latin every year. Languages are the story of people. The words you use tells us who you are. And that's important, and that's exciting. And as we change, as we grow, our language changes. Think about how many new words have developed from the internet. 10, 20 years ago, if you walked into a room and said, OMG, people would be like, what are you doing? But now, around the world, even people who don't speak English will say OMG, and not even know that it might stand for oh my God or some other exclamation. The way languages develop culturally is how people move. Any region, any country, any area that's going to have large bodies of water or large mountains or any geographic feature that's going to restrict movement, that's where you're going to have the language diverge. Think of New York, right? Long Island has a distinct accent. Why? It's an island. But nowadays people are commuting, and with the internet, it's shrinking it.
Yep.
But anytime you have a region that is isolated, they're going to have a thicker accent, a thicker dialect, given greater time, a whole new language. Now, when someone from, let's say, Long Island moves to Texas, they're going to bring their accent, their words, their structure, and it's going to influence that area a little bit.
Wow.
We have so many words in English that are 100% taken from Spanish, from the Spanish immigration. And that's recently. If you go back in American history, how many of our words are Dutch or German from the early settlers? How many of our words came from other languages, from the people or the stories that were brought here?
And a lot of the words from English are very similar to the root words from Latin.
Yeah.
Right?
Depending. Depending on the word, the whole history of English is complicated. We have a lot of words from French, thanks to the 100 Years' War, when Norman the Conqueror was in charge of trying to take over England, and French became the language of the courts and the language of kitchens. The famous simple example is, the animal is a cow, when it's on your plate is beef, from boeuf from the French. So it's this interesting dynamic that makes it fun. And as you travel, wherever the world might take you, you're going to bring your words and yourself to a new place.
I like that. So exploring new languages is always an adventure, is what you're saying.
I should hope so. I think exploring and learning is always an adventure no matter what you're doing. Language is how we tell our adventure to someone else and to ourselves.
Now we are going to take a break. Stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Choosing a college is a big, big, big deal. But I know I started right because CCM's in the top 2% of community colleges in the nation. And at County College of Morris, I get to choose from over 100 programs. Whether you're just out of high school,
like me,
exploring career options,
Like me.
or seeking lifelong learning,
Like me.
make CCM your choice. Like me. Go big and visit ccm.edu and aspire to be you.
Welcome back to CCM All Access. I'm Mitchell Etta, and we're here with Professor Brian Schorr. Welcome back. So, touch upon the CCM Study Abroad program to Thailand.
So, to clarify, it's technically with Education First. That is the company that's running this. It's not direct for CCM. It's not a credit program. But we are going to Thailand, and it's very exciting, and we have 6 spots still available. It is an all-inclusive trip through the entire country. We'll be going the end of May into early June, and we're looking for anybody, members of the community, who would like to join us. It's an amazing trip. Again, all-inclusive, flights, airfare, hotels, meals.
Wow.
Whether you want to spend your time with elephants in Chiang Mai or explore the floating markets of towns that I will not butcher their names for. We'll be flying into Bangkok, spending 10 days, and then flying back. And of course, if anyone's interested, they should contact me.
What kind of languages do you think are going to be learned there?
So the Thai language, we will have a bilingual translator with us the entire time. That's part of the program in the hotels throughout the entire trip. So you don't need to speak Thai, but certainly we will be studying a little bit. I don't like going to a country until I can say hello, goodbye, where's the bathroom, and other emergency phrases.
Yep.
But it is a tour package, so language skills are not necessary. And you'll find that there are always people, especially in Asia, who have some English and are happy to let you know and need people to practice with. one of the things about touring when you look American is people are so excited to buy you a coffee or a beer and practice their skills with you.
So when you see your past students graduate after they once said they feel they're going to drop out, give up and drop out, how does that make you feel?
Well, it does definitely make me feel good, but I hope it makes them feel good. I think we all have the capacity to overcome our challenges. We just don't always realize the resources we need. You know, I've had definitely many students who were ready to drop out, or maybe they were just in the wrong major, or maybe they just needed extra help, or they needed to go to the career center because they needed a job to help pay tuition. Once people realize that there's always help when you ask, it changes their perspective. And seeing those students on that graduation stage, it's exciting. It's what we live for. But for me, I think about the bigger lessons. When a student realizes that, when anybody realizes that there's help to help them achieve their goals, and then with that, they can then help others. And that's how we grow. And that's how we build a better society where we're helping each other and not looking for areas of conflict. Cooperation over authoritarianism has always been the way I look. It's the way I teach. I'm not here to lecture you. I'm here to help us share together as we reach your goals. I've been blessed. I've reached mine. Now I want to help others so that we can all reach our goals together and continue to grow.
Do you feel that happens often with students, that they feel they have to give up and drop out?
Well, statistically, unfortunately, CCM, we have about a 25% graduation rate, which is on par with most community colleges. We're closer to the top. But the very nature of community college, in fact, I would argue the very nature of late adolescence is one of change, is one of conflict, is one of growth, development, and discovery. There are some students who aren't ready for college. And I say that with a bit of sadness. Our American society necessitates education, but not everybody's ready. Whether that's they didn't learn enough in high school, whether that's their family is in a situation where they need to focus on other things. We would love to say that education and CCM is everyone's top priority, but it's not. People have lives, people have families, we all have bills, and we all are going through our own journey. You know, it's upsetting, but there are many students who've come and they're dealing with addiction. They're dealing with unstable housing. And we have some things to help them, but you've got to check yourself first. You know, I tell all my students in my morning classes, did everybody eat breakfast today? Well, especially during exams. You know, if you have food insecurity, noun conjugation and verbs and all the rest is not your priority. You take care of the base first. So yeah, it's sad when students don't finish, but that's a part of life. I wish we could give them all the things they need, but sometimes they need time for themselves. We do follow-ups. We try to, you know, what are your goals? What are your dreams? And is CCM a part of that process? Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't.
So that leads me into asking, what would you like CCM students to know about the learning opportunities we have here on campus on languages and ESL?
I would like them to know that the things they learn here at CCM will go far beyond. Learning a language is so important for opening up the world. If I remember correctly, you're a business major. Do you want to sell your products only to people who speak English? Do you want to work for a company that only is based in America? When you have those 2 semesters of Spanish, or whatever language you're taking, that's opening up your opportunities. And I want everybody to know that the more people you can communicate with, the more you can achieve with them. Medical major, you know, our health science department is huge. And I jokingly say, people who don't speak English still end up in hospitals. They still need help. And yeah, there are telephone translation services, but in the ER, when someone's in pain, that is not always the easiest option. Having someone on staff who can translate, that's going to get them the medical help they need. So I would say to our current students, or anybody considering CCM, thinking about languages, that is the area of growth. That is the area of opportunity.
Do you feel no matter which major you choose, it is always important to learn a second language just so that you can open up these opportunities like you said?
Absolutely. And I would even say open up opportunities in your brain. Did you know that multilingual speakers have far fewer levels of Alzheimer's and dementia?
Did not know that.
Activating your brain, the language centers of your brain, reduces gray matter and improves cognitive function. John Cena, famous wrestler, is still studying Chinese. Why? Because he said it helps him in the gym and in the ring too.
Wow.
Learning languages increases everything. Even if you're never going to be fluent. I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm not fluent in anything other than English. But it's that learning and that discovery that helps build yourself.
And you don't have to be fluent in these other languages to be successful as an ESL teacher.
Absolutely not. I'm one of the few, I have skills in other languages, but I need to understand how they work so I can help my students. I need to understand the grammatical structure, the phonetical awareness of a student from wherever they may be from. You know, I'm thinking of one class right now, Ukraine, Vietnam, Korea, Poland, Russia, Dominican Republic, Mexico, Peru, Colombia. That's half a room. So I need to understand their background, but I don't need to be fluent. Because again, translation doesn't build higher cognitive function. And that's always my goal. Critical thinking. Don't take things the simple way.
Do students tend to almost yearn for the translation, or do they take it upon themselves to kind of almost separate the languages?
So there are distinct stages in second language acquisition. And of course, when you're first learning a language, when you don't know the word, yeah, of course you want to translate. You know, when I travel, of course I want to translate. I keep my translation book. That's an earlier stage. When you need basic communication, when you need to get your ideas through, absolutely. When you're in a classroom, look, we all get embarrassed. We've all had, sorry, math department, that, you know, calculus professor give us a problem and you just stand there drooling. No one wants to be called to the board and not know the answer. And, you know, direct translations are fast and effective. But you can't write you've never played the translation game in Google?
Yeah, I have.
Where you try, you know, write something, put it in Google Translate and go back and forth a couple times. It's chaos. That's what your brain can end up with if you keep trying. So in the beginning, yeah, you know, we all need to understand things. But as we continue to learn and grow, we learn the context. And you'll find from writing 1 to writing 3, you get to see students take that transition and take that language journey. And along the way, build confidence. If you've ever seen little, you know, preschoolers, little children learn languages, oh my God, it's so fast, right? You watch little kids in preschool can pick up English in 6 months when it would take an adult 2 to 3 years. And there are multiple reasons, brain development, cognition, but one of the big things is they have no fear. Little kids on the playground, they just want to play. They don't care if their grammar's wrong, they just want to play. And if adults had that fearlessness in all their subjects, we could learn so much faster and bring the joy back to learning. But fear is a reality of life. We don't want to be embarrassed.
So the saying, learning from your mistakes, that's huge. Everyone learns from their mistakes. When it comes to learning a new language, if you make a mistake, do you benefit a lot from that when it comes to making a mistake, being corrected, as opposed to, let's say, a different subject like math? Do you learn more from that mistake?
First, I would put a little asterisk next to that ideal, that axiom, in that there's a difference between study, practice, and repetition. You know, there's something you can study something for 10 years, or you can study something for 1 year 10 times. Making a mistake, important place. As an educator, when I see a student make a mistake, that gives me insight into their learning process. But just getting a correction, if you don't know why you made that mistake, you're going to make it again. If you don't, when you study, look at how you're studying to understand the processes that led you to the right answer or the wrong answer, you're just going to keep making it. You know? How many people got a speeding ticket And they keep speeding, right?
Bunch of people.
Until you understand why we have speed limits and why are you speeding in the first place. That is how you change your behavior. And in school, that's how you learn, how you grow, how you get the better grades, you get the better diplomas, you get the better jobs. Success builds upon success.
So my next question for you, to kind of wrap things up, is do you have any ideas on how you would like to wrap up your professional career, whether it is here on campus or just in general?
Wrapping up my professional career, I feel like I'm just getting started. I've only been here 13 years.
Where do you see yourself when you would like to wrap up your career?
You know, hard to say. I never thought I would be here, and now I'm here. I would like to look back on a career having been involved. I mean, study abroad. Right now I am the co-chair of Alpha Mu Gamma Language Honor Society. We are having our Krispy Kreme donut sale to raise money for charity, amongst other things. It's student involvement and engagement. I think our influence is measured in the way we assist others. As an educator, as a teacher, I know 5, 10 years, students will probably forget my name. Can you remember your teachers from middle school, preschool?
No.
No, but you remember the things they taught you, and you use that to go on and teach others. And I look at that as the influence we have, not as just educators, as everybody. Our names are irrelevant. The names in a history book are things we can memorize if it's going to be on an exam.
Yep.
The influence we have in helping others, in fostering cooperation, that is how I would like to look back upon my career.
It's the things that you learn, not who taught you, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the teaching in Australia and South Korea. That was when you taught art, correct?
I taught art in the Outback and English as a foreign language in Seoul.
Okay.
That's kind of how I made that transition.
So how is teaching in those countries different than teaching in America?
Well, the first joke is, of course, they what we call collocations, language words. So words have different meanings in different cultures, same words. The simple example is, a rubber is an eraser, not a condom. Many mistakes were made. I found the Outback exciting, you know. It was a different educational system, and I got to see some of the pros and cons of Victoria versus New Jersey. You know, I found they had a lot more outdoor activities because the weather's beautiful, but they didn't have school lunch, and I found that to be a bit upsetting because you got to eat to learn. I think that it was seeing the universality in all students, in all parents. Everybody wants to learn, and everybody's going through the same trials and tribulations. Adolescence is hard no matter where in the world you are. And so, I mean, like I said, the Outback was its own adventure. You know, looking out your window and seeing the wombats and the wallabies having fun outside was kind of mystifying at first.
Yeah.
But here at CCM, when my students are like, oh, there's geese and there's deer. And I'm like, yeah, I know, deer. Novelty is always exciting. And then in Seoul, it was a different vibe, very focused on education. Students will be in school from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Wow.
So it was a very education-focused culture for those that have the access and privilege. And I was a part of that. And while it's amazing that students are learning, I found this, you know, from the Australia where people are very chill, lower levels of higher education, to South Korea where, you know, getting into college is so important. The vibe and the stress levels and the pressure. You know, I didn't have students falling asleep because they were up all night studying in Australia, but in South Korea that's fairly common. So also when you think about any location, people want to know what are the jobs, what are the careers, where's the representation, what do you see? If you look around you and you're seeing people going to white collar jobs, that's what you're going to focus on. If that's what your parents are doing, if that's what your friends and neighbors are doing, if that's what you see, you feel that's attainable. If you live in, I was in rural communities living on these farms, people are more focused on what's around them. How are they going to meet their needs? And what do they see? And what do students anywhere, what do people understand as their avenues towards success?
Well, thank you for sharing.
Thank
I
you.
was honestly really enlightened during this conversation. So thank you for that.
You're welcome to come sit in my classes any day.
This has been another edition of CCM All Access. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.